Hello! Hello, friends. It's time for another Evening with Matt. Except it's the afternoon, I think. I'm not sure what time it is. I've been doing some very weird hours this week. It's a really loud motorbike.
Diabetes.
Anyhow, we're back again, and because I am sat slightly to the side, that means I'm not on my own.
Hi.
Andy's here as well.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
So you got both of us. Double bumper edition.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, you just did that horrible thing that Sammy puts as the emote at the end of all of his.
No, that's that one.
Is it that one?
Yes.
I thought it was like the telephone
it's
thing.
Hang loose.
That's not hang
so
loose.
I'm told. This is hang loose.
Okay. Sammy, that really annoys me when you put those things at the end of your messages. Just so you know.
Anyway, Matthew.
Hello there.
What are we making today?
We are making, funnily enough, some chainmail. Because that's original. That's not like it's pretty much all we seem to do these days.
It's someone
Are we on Blue Peter now? You know, I really wanted to be a Blue Peter presenter when I was a kid.
I never watched Blue Peter when I was a kid. I wasn't that into it. I was all about Art Attack.
Art Attack was good.
I really, yeah.
With
they didn't have like
Neil Buchanan.
Neil Buchanan.
Yeah.
Oh, hail the Neil. They didn't have like a guest child segment, did they? On Art Attack. I don't remember that because I always wanted to go on it, but there was never like an option to apply.
There wasn't even like a gallery, or was there?
There was galleries. Yeah? You could send stuff in.
Okay, but you could never appear.
No.
You could just be the faceless person that made a paper mache gargoyle door knocker.
Yeah, I wonder what's happened to Neil Buchanan. Is he still alive? I hope he is.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago, was it?
It's probably going to be really one of those really horrible stories where, like, he was horribly depressed and is now.
No, that they had that one on Smart.
Now not with us. And no, I think that was a slightly different.
Anyway,
you're talking about Mark Spate, but yeah.
Am I?
Yeah, that was the. Anyway,
Anyways.
we're not going to be sad in this episode because we usually are. So there we go.
Yikes!
Oh dear. Well,
yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
What are we making today, Matthew? Specifically, we
are making some standards.
Oh yeah.
Which are so they're like small mantles. Some people would call them a gorget, but I'm not sure that's technically true. A standard usually is just a collar that goes around your neck, and it would protect you in your neck, but it would be the gap between your chest
cover
plate
the gap
and
between
helm.
Yeah, between your.
Or it's specifically between your chest plate and your aventail.
There you go. The more you know.
There you are. And we've been asked to make some that are slightly longer, so they're standards, but they're not a standard. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha.
I mean, I'm no expert here, right? But I think that all of these like bits and pieces of armour would have been like slightly different per customer, regardless.
Yeah, it would all have been to fit the gaps between their armour that was custom fit to them.
There was no one size fits all in medieval times.
Well, there sort of became 3 sizes fit all when you were making. I want to say auxiliary armour, but that's probably the wrong word. I know what I'm thinking about, but I can't. I'm not.
Are you talking for soldiers?
So they did start to mass produce armour, and they had small, medium, and large, and they were the only sizes you got. But that was sort of like foot soldier, basic spod armour.
That's hot.
But if you actually wanted proper stuff, it was all custom.
Heckin' yes.
Yes.
So that's cool.
Anyway, I just did a Sammy. Anyway.
Anyway.
Disclaimer: we are not experts. We just make this stuff for fun. So.
Do we?
Well, because we kind of have to.
I don't.
So if any of our...
Okay, so Matt does it for fun. I do it sort of semi-professionally. Got a company to run.
We do have a company to run, that's true.
And this is my slave labour workforce.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Your payment is the prevalence of being...
My payment is the what?
The prevalence.
The prevalence?
The privilege of being in my presence.
Privilege. Ah.
There you go. See, I was combining privilege and presence into prevalence. My apologies.
But yes, so that's what we are sat here doing.
Hooray!
For hours and hours and hours, like usual. What is the topic we are going to talk about today?
Which one would you like to pick first, Matthew?
I think
the one that's circled.
Funnily enough, the one that's circled in slightly bigger writing that we thought, in fact, that you thought, oh yeah, that'll be a great idea.
Great idea. So we're going to talk about kit plans for Empire. Or do you want to talk about kit plans in general? Because I've got other things.
I think let's start with Empire kit plans because we've just come back from the last event and it's all fresh in our brain.
It was a good event.
And then if we end up talking about them really quick, then we can move on to other things.
So I think you have the biggest kit plans of them all at the moment.
Yes.
To reflect what's going on in your game right now.
That's true.
So do you want to talk about that?
Do you want me to elaborate?
Yes. Ideally.
So I've been playing Fal for 3 years now, which doesn't seem like a massive amount of time and also a lifetime. And I've pretty much had the same kit, or the same basic kit, for that entire 3 years. Because my previous orc died at the end of 1 year, then I had the whole long dark to come up with his costume and his clothing and get it all ready. So I'd made all the underrobes, I'd made the jacket that I wore. The war skirt that I have was still my original war skirt from my original orc all those years ago. Actually, I think when you add it up, I think it's about 5 pieces of costume that make up his whole kit.
Just fine.
And it's two robes, a jacket, a war skirt.
Right.
What's that for?
Yep.
And
your raggedy trousers.
And my raggedy trousers.
Every single LARP you've ever been to and are literally falling apart.
Yeah, they have fallen apart and I don't actually wear them anymore, sadly. R.I.P. trousers. My first pair of linen trousers, £3 in the charity shop, lasted me 5 years. They were very good. I will miss them.
They were way too big for you.
They were massive, but that's why you have a belt.
That'd be what them belts be for, yo.
But yes, so I've basically had the same standards. That's the wrong word. I'm still thinking about standards. I've had the same base kit for the entire time I've been Fal. Now, I have had new kit at every single event I've played. So I've had an extra thing that I've added every event. So my kit has grown a lot, and it does look a lot different and far less simple than it was when I started. But it's still the same sort of basic clothing. So it's still, there's 2 plain underrobes, the jacket, and the war skirt. Now what I was going to do is give Steph my war skirt so she could add to it and make it better, and I completely forgot again. However, we're seeing her in a few weeks, so I can do it then. That's me just remembering my
your schedule.
My schedule that I should have remembered at the end of the event. So, in light of what is happening in character and the path I am going down, I going to make, or well, I'm going to have made some new jackets. So I'm going to have one made by Andy, and hopefully, if she agrees, one made by Janet. They're going to be the same pattern, the same rough colour, because they'll both be beige, but the detail on them that hopefully I will do, unless both of you decide you want to do it all and leave it as a surprise for me. It is going to be entirely different, so it'll be the same coat, but two entirely different coats.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite a nice idea.
Are you going to reflect upon, are you going to talk about why? I think you should.
You think I should? So one of them is going to be my first Legionnaire coat, and the other is going to be a second Legionnaire coat. So one will have leather bias binding, or leather trim, sort of shamanistic elements to it that will be very evocative or provocative. Evocative, I think, is the word of the First Legion. And then the Second Legion coat will be the same one, but rather than having sort of shamanistic trappings, it's going to be more militant. So it will have points that I can attach heavy armour to. It will have, for example, a brass trim rather than bias binding. So it will look a lot more militant and robust, which I think is really cool.
I think that's pretty cool too. I want dibs on the Second Legion one. Soz. I think Janet does like Winter Sun kit a bit better than I do. Like mine, although
we have a customer. I'll have to be back in a minute. Oh, alas, 'twas no customer, but a dearest mamma.
Yes, but I will keep this in my person. Oh, I'm tired.
So I've entirely forgotten what we were talking about.
Yeah, me too. Something I want to do a Second Legion coat. I've done my glasses.
I don't know.
Right, so anyway, Second Legion coat. You want a Second Legion coat and a First Legion coat, and I think I was just saying about how I think Janet's kind of better at doing the Winter Sun look.
Yes.
There we go. So I want to do the Second Legion version, I guess. That's where we were headed with that.
So originally I got the idea from, actually no, so the jacket that I wear currently is a sort of replica of the the starting mage robes you get in Skyrim. So the sort of novice robes with a hood and a little mantle. It's sort of that, the jacket that's part of that set is what I modelled Fal's original jacket on. And the one that we're looking at is, so I've always wanted like shoulder capes. So not a sort of capelet that goes across that you'd wear in the League, but more just like a thing that hangs down on your shoulder.
I think Will Talbot wears something with something similar, like the sleeves.
He's got ones that have a sleeve hole that you then put your arm through.
Oh right, okay.
But I want specifically like just a drape of fabric.
Yeah.
Over the arm. And
while we were at Game of Thrones Fest the other week trading, they had a lot of cosplayers there, but who is it that wears cape, shoulder coat thing, but Joffrey? And there was a very nice cosplayer who we got talking to about costume and stuff. We were admiring his costume very much. And he agreed to do a copy of his pattern for us because he was about your build. So, yeah, that's what we're gonna.
That's what we're getting.
Steal.
Not stealing.
The cosplayer was is called Loki of London, FYI. They're very cool, very nice, very friendly, and they were really cool looking. Really good Joffrey cosplay. Well done.
Yeah. So Fal is now going to be directly inspired by Joffrey for the rest of his life, and we'll see how that changes his character.
I am your king! You need to scream that at dawn, surely.
I do. Oof.
Anyway.
But yeah, so that is my sort of big, long, dark kit project currently. There's other bits that we sort of will talk about, but however, that's enough of me nattering.
Yeah.
What do you fancy making for Raw, if anything? Or have you got new and interesting projects that you would like to do instead?
I would like to make Raw some new kit. What I would make, I don't really know. I kind of want to make her some more outfits because I've been wearing my posh frock on Anvil. My nice sort of tweed one that I made for special occasions. I've just taken to wearing that one because it looks really nice. So, yeah, I could probably do another version of that.
Yeah.
I quite fancy having like a cowl neck, like dress. Right, so you know my one does up the front.
Yeah.
This would be like, it's solid, but like the neck's all baggy, so it like hangs like this.
Okay.
So it would kind of look like a, you put it over your head.
Okay.
Blown your mind, haven't I?
Yeah.
So it would probably need to be like stretchy fabric. There's a fly.
There was a fly, yes.
So I quite fancied that. Although, having said that, Becca Champion, who does stuff for the Looking Glass, I think she does the drawings. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
Oh, that's really naff. Anyway, Becca Looking Glass, we're gonna do like a double team where I make her a portrait and she's gonna do. We're basically gonna make a collab dress together for Raw.
Are you still doing that?
Yeah, yeah. So I can't wait to get started on that. I think it's one of those things that's going to have to happen over the long dark. We might be able to get started on it.
Yeah.
Maybe? I hope. I really like that.
They might be at Wassail, so you might be able to
I very much hope
coordinate with them there.
Wassail! Because that was where I first had the idea anyway. I think it was coming home from that. I was like, what if I do this?
I know you mentioned it, and I think, didn't they ask you then, would you do an interview with them?
Yeah.
And then you did an interview.
I did the interview whilst quite inebriated at Wassail.
Oh, you did it there?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realise, I thought it was later.
No, but I went back and I showed them loads of like fabric and stuff that I had lifted from Dub Trade to do like kit with. Yeah, it's mostly grey, this one, so who knows.
But that's kind of like grey is your sort of subtle underlying colour.
Yeah.
You've always been brown and green on top with sort of hints of grey. So actually having a almost opposite colour scheme is quite nice, it's quite good.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to wind up being a dress that gets worn like an absolute shit ton.
Until you wear it every event.
Until I wear it every single time because I love it. Becca has offered to do some embroidery and stuff on it, like in game. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this because we haven't decided it yet. But like basically, I kind of wanted for a little while to make stuff on Anvil, like at an actual Empire event.
Yeah.
But obviously, you know, for obvious reasons, that's not really sort of very easy.
Yeah, I think the struggle with having to make everything looking character.
Yeah.
And having to, having all your tools and stuff to look just as good. I think that's a lot more effort than is necessarily worth it.
I think once we've kind of exchanged ideas on what the dress should be, like, I'm going to just make the bulk of it off screen, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then we'll do like the details and stuff at Anvil. But I thought it'd be really, really cool to like have a project that was made entirely on Anvil soil, but I don't think it's really practical.
What sort of a sewing machine would you have to bring on for it to...
These?
Wow.
I think you'd have to
you'd
hand
have
sew
to
it.
entirely hand...
I guess there's plenty of reenactors who do that anyway, so... But the problem is, right, it's not that I wouldn't be willing to sit there and make a dress in character over the course of the seasons. It's that as it currently stands, I have to get other people to make it.
Yeah.
Which I think is like a really... I don't like that. I don't like assuming that people will get fun out of that. So, yeah,
because chances are they'll get fun out of it for 5 minutes and
then feel obliged to do it, which is not... It's not the jam that I'm going for. I don't want that. That sounds like the way to lose friends. Yeah. So that's, I guess, the overview. Other things that I want to make. I really want to make like an apron dress, as I've said before.
Yeah.
James got me some lovely glass beads. And come to me in character and gave them to me, and those are going to be like the bits that go across.
Ooh.
So I'm going to use those, but I need to make like the tortoise shell brooches.
Yeah.
Which I don't really entirely know how I'm going to do that yet. Like,
do you still want to sculpt and...
I think I might have to get the lost wax cast, because they've got like... I was looking at pictures of them, and they've got like
need like the hardware on the
brooch
back.
pin, like in them.
Yeah.
Basically, like, I don't know how else to explain it, but like a bog standard modern brooch pin is not quite gonna do the trick.
Mm.
It's gonna be a little bit too weak, I think.
Yeah.
To support a whole dress. So yeah, that's another thing. That's quite cool that I've got. Going down. I'm also thinking quite heavily about kit for our next characters.
Yes.
It is weird, isn't it? Like you always think about backup characters, but like it's hard to anticipate how long your characters are going to last. Like I've had 2 characters die, but it wasn't like they weren't really natural deaths, do you know what I mean? Like, they weren't, like, organic in the game.
Yeah.
Brutally honest. You know? So, I don't know, maybe I just don't play that kind of character that is likely to get smited. Smote? Smote.
Smite. Sounds better.
Okay, smited.
Smitten. No,
that's something else. So there's that. And like...
Because in theory, Raw could live for another 5 years.
It's quite like, yeah, it's not
It wouldn't be unrealistic to say that.
Yeah. And when you consider like some of the characters at events have been there since day one of the game starting.
I mean, I've been playing Fal for 3 years now, like I said. You've been playing Raw for 4. And I think we turned up as orcs.
I think Empire been running for 5 years?
No, I think it had gone for 3, and we turned up in the start of its 4th year.
But you had quite a few characters before the orcs.
But over a very quick period, only over a year. It started in 2013. I'm pretty sure that's what it says on the website.
Okay, it's 2019 now. So that's 6 years.
So this is I think this is the end of the 7th year. You've been playing Raw for 4 years, and I think we started as orcs in the 3rd year.
Okay. Sure.
That doesn't seem right.
No, it doesn't.
I'm sure we started later.
I'm sure we started later as well. I think Empire's been running a bit later than you think. A bit longer than you think.
Wow, okay then. I am more than happy to be corrected. Anyway, my point was, we are long-lived characters, and we've not been alive that long.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the basic gist of it. Like, before then, both of my GC characters, Cora and Spoon, I think they only actually... I think Spoon lasted longer. Maybe I played her for 2 years of events.
I think so.
Roughly. And Cora was only like a year-long character. I think. How long have I been?
How old are we?
I don't know.
How many
it's
grey
like when
hairs
you
did we
try
have
and...
when we started?
None. I had none. And now I've got like 18. It's ridiculous. This video is giving me grey hairs. Yeah, anyway. I can't remember. God. Dear, when did I start laughing? I started laughing after I started Aztec. Because I remember talking to Coxie about it and being like, what if they think I'm a loser? Yeah. I remember being quite nervous about starting laughing.
Okay, so here's a question. You've been Raw for 4 years.
Yeah.
How many costumes or sets of clothing do you think you've... How many stages of Raw do you think there have been?
Sorry.
3.
Yeah. There's been 3 because there was like my quite frankly like horrific kit. I look back at pictures of myself and go, what was I thinking? I looked dreadful in my first events. So I had my first kit, and that lasted for about, I don't know, a year and a half? Maybe?
Yeah.
And then Steph gave me a dress that's very marchery, and I basically redesigned the whole kit.
Oh, the brown one. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the reason that was the first sort of LARP dress I've ever had.
Yeah.
And like, I think the reason I looked like such garbage in my first events was because I wasn't willing to sort of push the boat outside my comfort zone.
Everything you had was you'd made though.
Yeah. Everything except one thing that I hadn't actually made, which was a sheepskin that went around my middle.
Yeah.
Part of my war skirt, but everything else was made. I even like redid all the hair on my mask because I wasn't happy with Mandala's hair. Yeah, redid it all with crepe hair.
So your first stage was sort of your green tunic and brown trousers.
Yep.
And your sheepskin.
My sheepskin, and I had like and my war skirt. My war skirt's never changed. Well, except for the under bit that was obviously larches.
Yeah.
That I then reeved.
Acquired.
Not saying it was an inside job, but
No.
I wanted that war skirt. Anyway, so yes, and then I made like a sort of shamany like hood thing. And then I made some cool wraps, but then I set fire to myself with them by accident and thought this maybe isn't a good idea. They had like pine cones and stuff like dangling off them, and I set fire to myself while I was cooking.
So what you're saying is, that time you were in the pit, and everyone was really worried about you setting yourself on fire, and they were all stopping you from setting yourself on fire by slowly guiding you out the way.
If James hadn't been there,
they had every right to be worried because they don't realise that you have already set yourself on fire in character.
I'm not joking. If James hadn't been there and like put his hand like to stop me fucking standing in that torch, I would have set fire to Chain them all. I bet you're really glad that you're trusting a blind person with it. Yeah. Yeah, I do. My spatial awareness is not great, if I'm completely honest. And it was like behind me, and James was like, I'm just gonna guide you away from there. So that was cool. Yeah, legit concern. I'm a concerning individual, quite frankly. Yeah.
So what's your second raw phase?
Second raw phase, March Address. March Address, and then I started like incorporating quite a lot of Larcher's kit into my kit. And I had your mantle on.
Yeah.
So there was like my first dress. Then I started wearing like a gypsy dress underneath it, like a full skirt one. Then we had that hellish wet event where it was so muddy that like I couldn't work out why my kit was so like it kept falling down. It turned out it was because like half the field was inside my kit. Like it was been so muddy, it was so wet that I like literally had to just take this skirt off and be like, oh god, I just can't. I think it must have weighed about a stone.
Ooh.
Like just on its own. It was so muddy. And that kind of put pay to wearing that. Which is a shame because I put it in the washing machine chewed it up for some reason.
Yeah, it's all
and now
just
it looks
disintegrated.
really orky and cool. Oh well, that's happened. And what? Then I got invited to Rafnar's Midnight Feast.
Yes, and you wanted to make some posh kit for it.
I wanted to make some kit that I wasn't going to wind up eating. Because your mantle, like, sheds like nothing on earth.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to distribute, Ashbourne glitter around Rafnar's lovely home. Because that would probably like ruin their deposit or something.
So this is when you made your Fancy League shoulder?
Yeah.
Or
So
did
I made
you make that before or after the dress?
I don't know. I made them both at like for the same occasion. So I made a new dress, which is kind of like it's not exactly a dress. It's more like a coat, with like a dress front, and then like it's open from here to ankles. And I made that nice jacket thing as well with a little bit of fluff on it and some embroidery. Yeah, they're pretty cool. Not really anything else in my kit's changed. My boots change every event. Last event I wore those wellies that Matt D made me.
Yep.
Sorry, that Janet made me. And I thought my feet were going to rot off.
Just because they were horribly sweaty?
Or... so sweaty, yeah. It wasn't great. Always have a shower at Empire. Come on, guys. Look after yourselves. My feet were sore and I had a shower on Saturday and, not good. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. I think that's all the evolutions kit that I've had.
That's cool. Should I talk about Fal's?
Yeah.
Falvolutions? So
This isn't even my final form yet.
It's not. So I don't have quite as distinct evolutions as Raw did. Because I've sort of built up the same kit. And it's just...
Sorry, I did pretty much go from being a tramp to being quite well dressed.
Yeah.
For an orc. Sorry, there you go. That's
as you should. You're in the capital, in the height of civilization. You want to fit in.
Mm.
Just because there's a foot thick of mud underfoot doesn't mean you can't look snazzy.
I think. Right. Sorry, I'm gonna hijack your little segment.
That's
here.
alright. I hadn't started yet.
I know you hadn't started, so I'm okay with hijacking it. Like, I think it's quite fitting as well because it kind of like was nice that. Obviously, I still look like a tramp when when Larch died. And then it's like kind of, it got worse before it got better. And
so
like,
you kind of regressed a
yeah,
little bit.
Raur's not good at looking after herself as a new widow.
Did you start looking better once you became the Storm Shaman? Did that coincide at all? Because I could imagine you having to look better
I think
to
it did.
host visitors.
I think it did, yeah. And like I kind of like picked up, it was like, oh, it's, I don't know, it was kind of nice that it sort of followed the arc of like Raur coming out of sort of crippling depression. There we go, look after yourselves. Otherwise you'll be like Raur. Sad. There you go.
But yeah, so Fal's sort of generations haven't been as obvious because it's been the same kit that I've built up. I've almost made it. I've gone from 480 to 1080p quality to now 4K, as opposed to 3 or more different actual outfits. So I always had the first underrobe, which was more of a tunic that just had long tails, so you could see my legs, and I always liked a silhouette that was more like a sort of skirt or a dress. So I made the second underrobe, as it were, just out of a darker sort of beige with a lot of nice embroidered trim on it. Not that you see any of it.
It's kind of a tan, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more,
an aggressive
more a tan.
form.
But I made that to fill the gap so that I would have almost enough layers that I could just wear them. And if it was really, really hot, that's all I would need and I would still look like Fal. I've always been of the opinion that your bottom layers should be just as high quality as the stuff on top in case you want to wear less. In our case, orcs look better in layers, so you wear a lot more than you usually would need to, especially in weather that you should wear less, just to look good.
Yeah.
And I've always had that option that if I really needed to take a load of kit off because I was actually overheating or about to pass out, then I could. Of course, that doesn't quite work when I actually have to take my mask off to remove those layers, but we'll overlook that for now. So Fal's coat, his jacket, is sort of the biggest statement of his kit, and I've added to that every event for the last 3 years.
To the point where
where I have actually stopped now. There is nothing more I can add to that jacket
before it starts to...
Before it's just... it would just be too much. I started off, all the edges were embroidered. I had some applique bits on the tabards, which really I should have appliqued them before I sewed them on, but I sewed them on because I had an event to go to and sort of did it quickly. So I ended up having to hand embroider the edges of the applique because I couldn't get a sewing machine under them because there were so many layers. And from there I added, of course, the Skywise as a whole group went through a bit of a colour palette change, and we added sky blue to our beige assortium. So I added slight blue trim. I added some really small mana crystals to one of my collar sides. I finished up the embroidery, and I added some runes to the collar because I had some pins on the collar that I took off at the same time as our sort of banner colour change, and that denoted a specific change in Fal's journey, I suppose. This also coincides with, or was the start of the very long journey that became Fal becoming a preacher.
Can I just interject, because
Yes.
there's a really cool part of your kit that's actually really, really subtle. On your collar, you obviously used to have the Winter Sun logo badge things that you made.
Yep.
and then something happened in game, and you pulled them off, and you embroidered a little rune of change underneath.
Yeah.
So there's like little holes in your kit on both sides that had Winter Sun medals on, and now don't. I think that's really cool.
Do you know what the runes are that I put on?
No.
No. That's a shame, isn't it?
Was it Rune of Change? I don't know what it's called.
One of them is the Rune of Change, or the rune. What's the word?
I don't know.
Associated with change. And the other one, you'll just have to come and have a look at.
Yeah. Sorry, was that not something you wanted to talk
No,
about?
that's fine. I like being vague about it because I like it just to come up naturally. But also I like pointing it out because I like showing off that you can have lots of subtle hints in your kits that go unnoticed, and that's a good thing.
Oh yeah.
So the next stage in Fal's jacket, I'll skip past the preacher bit because I've got to come back to that because that's a different bit of kit. So the next stage in Fal's jacket was adding the sort of biker badge on the back, adding the big Imperial horse. That was the last bit of applique and embroidery I wanted to do because it was just a blank area and I wanted to finish it off. So I added the horse. I was going to do the armour in sort of gold and orange applique, but thought, you know what, we've got a load of brass, let's do it in metal. So I riveted on metal plates as the horse's armour, which I think was really, really effective. I did attempt to acid etch one of them, but this was back when I was still working out how to do it and I didn't quite get it right, and I've never had the chance to go back to it. The final bits that I added to Fal's coat are specifically around him becoming a preacher, and I added some writing down the front of the collar and around one of his cuffs. I'm not going to say what it says.
Again, you'll just have to come and look.
You'll just have to come and look. But it's there and it means something, and if anything, what I would say is every bit of kit I wear has a purpose in character as to why it's there. It's all, when people say aspirational kit, they don't just mean buying more things or buying extra stuff or buying more expensive things. They mean adding to what you've got and adding to the story that is your kit as your character progresses. So I've had the same coat, the same one bit of clothing, but it has 3 years of lived-in addition that I've added as I've gone along.
I mean, that sounds as gross as it actually is as well. So I don't think that coat's ever been washed, has it? Or it can't.
It has.
Covered in
so
metal.
Since I put the fur trim on the shoulders, it hasn't gone in a washing machine, but it has been washed.
I don't think Febreze counts as washing.
It's been spritzed. So if we go back to talking about changes, Fal's most recent change, I say recent, it's about 1.5 years now, was becoming a preacher. So I wanted some specific preacher kit to make, or to wear rather, that denotes Fal's new job. Now we never had anything that was specifically shamanistic. I had a couple of probably chicken bones or just bits of tat, but nothing that was actually, because I didn't play him as a specific shaman, or I didn't really go hard on the shaman brief. I never really had anything that showed that off. Whereas because I knew I was not just changing my archetype, but changing my resource, and in effect changing almost the whole outlook of Fal, I wanted some clothing that represented that. So of course, as hopefully you will have seen before, I made a stole. I also made a 7-pointed star, and I added the I guess you could call them sort of the little prayer text that's on the jacket. And I think that sort of... Oh, I didn't know, that wasn't just it. I also added a virtue belt.
Yes. Virtue belts. You can press the different virtues on it to activate them, like a superpower.
Yeah.
That's
depending
why
on
they're
which
so
ones,
expensive.
depending on which one's in the front is the active one. It
yeah.
like twists around.
Yeah.
So
Not
I made...
like it just rotates a segment of your body around like an action figure.
Does Fal become a Dalek?
Activating virtue. Activating pride. Vigilance. Sorry.
But yes, I suppose the virtue belt is the newest piece of kit in its entirety, which I created. I'd wanted to do some Roman-inspired kit for a while, and I created the sort of generic round pressed brass dome plaque that's very evocative of sort of Roman legionnaire belts.
Do you have one to show?
I don't have one to show because they're all in the van.
Or we could do a jump cut and we could obtain one.
No, that's all right. People can see them on the website or on the Facebook page.
So help me.
What?
The mouse is running. Sorry. Do you want me to go and get it?
No, it's fine.
I've derailed this.
You have derailed it quite a lot. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm going to invite you back. But yes, and I ended up sculpting all of the virtues into little plaques and added them to the belt. So I had a single strip of leather with all the brass plaques. And it just made what in effect was a really nice, high quality, very detail heavy sort of central bit of decoration to my kit, and it really finished off the war skirt, and it added that last piece of almost sort of priest regalia, so that if in effect, you know, you could have mage armour that was priest armour, I've got a stole, a medallion and a belt. And I felt that those three bits were enough that I could get dressed into them and I would feel like Fal was a preacher.
I think heavy on the details is the word, because that belt weighs a ton. I can't believe quite a lot of orcs wear really unacceptably heavy kit. Like my war skirt's heavy, but then I lifted up Alex's war skirt and like fucking hell.
But you know that's because he wears two.
I do know that's where.
And we probably shouldn't say.
No, I'm not going to talk
why.
about that because that's his stuff. But
he does wear more than he needs to.
That other one, oh my god! I have a feeling that maybe because I've seen it, and I have a feeling that there might be some of our rings on it.
Probably.
Anyway, there we go. Onwards.
But yeah, I think that kind of covers it for just a sort of little bit more of an explanation of our kit and what we're looking to do in the future.
For Empire, anyway.
For Empire, yeah. Is there anything you want to add to that segment, or should we finish it there? We've not got... Hang on, here we go. How far have we got on our chainmail?
Oh no, mine's embarrassing.
Look at
small.
that.
It's a little bubby one.
It's alright. It's not like we were solely concentrating on it.
Doesn't even fit me. Anyway, yeah.
Oh, you said anyway a lot. Oh, bad habit. I'm going to have to break that. So, I think that's it for this evening. Thank you very much. Good, it should be, so is mine. Thank you very much for listening and watching. I hope that was interesting enough. We are probably going to do another few.
Yeah.
So you might get a couple of evenings with us, which would be nice. So, you know.
Afternoons with us. It's definitely afternoon.
I can't change the title card.
I'm sorry.
It's fine, they'll come out in the evening.
But Matthew, it's a lie.
So yes, thank you very much for...
Cheers.
Thanks very much for watching.
See you later.
We'll see you later. Bye.